You stayed silent while they spoke against you, while they lied, while they tried to break your reputation, and the weight of it felt unbearable. But what they didn't know, what they couldn't see, was that your silence was not weakness, it was trust. A trust so deep that you chose to let Allah handle what no one else could. And now, every moment you felt ignored, every moment you held back, was being recorded, preserved, and prepared for a time when justice would not just arrive, but arrive perfectly, in a way that would elevate you beyond the pain, beyond the betrayal, and beyond the people who doubted you. Because the chosen one does not rush, does not react, and does not need to fight for what Allah has already written. And today, you are about to understand why your patience is not just waiting, it is power. When you chose to stay silent in moments where you were clearly wronged, misunderstood, or treated unfairly, it was not because you were weak, it was because something deeper inside you understood a truth that most people never reach. And that truth is that not every situation needs your reaction. Because in Islam, silence is not always losing. Sometimes it is a sign of strong faith where you step back and trust that Allah sees everything you are going through, understands what people are hiding, and knows your truth even when others do not. And this is what makes you different from most people, because many people cannot handle being misunderstood even for a short time. Their ego pushes them to react quickly, to explain themselves, to prove they are right, and to fix how others see them, because they depend on people's approval to feel at peace. But the chosen one thinks differently. They begin to realize that no matter how much they explain, some people will still not understand. So instead of wasting their energy trying to change people's opinions, they choose to trust Allah completely, knowing that His justice is always more powerful and more accurate than any explanation they could give. And this is where your silence becomes something strong, because it is no longer empty. It becomes a sign that you are relying on Allah, that you believe His timing is better than your need to react, and that His plan is greater than your emotions in that moment. And you need to understand that staying silent does not mean you accepted what happened. It means you trusted that Allah will respond in a way that is stronger and more meaningful than anything you could say. Because your words might only change a few minds for a short time, but Allah's justice changes situations completely. And this is why your silence felt so difficult, because it required real strength, self-control, and patience. And not everyone can do that. Only those who are being raised to a higher level are tested in this way. So what you thought was you losing your voice was actually you growing in faith, making a quiet but powerful decision that you trust Allah more than your own ability to defend yourself. And that is not weakness. That is a rare kind of strength that only a few people ever reach. What makes this journey difficult is not just what happened to you, but the silence that follows it. The feeling that nothing is changing, that the people who hurt you are moving on without consequences while you are left waiting. And this is where your mind begins to question everything, wondering why justice is taking so long and whether it will even come at all. But what you need to understand is that in Islam, delay is never a sign that Allah has ignored you. It is a sign that He is preparing something in a way that is complete, precise, and far greater than what you are expecting. Because if justice came instantly, it might satisfy your emotions for a moment, but it would not reveal the full truth. It would not expose people completely, and it would not carry the weight that real justice is meant to have. And this is why Allah allows time, so that actions can unfold, so that people can reveal their true character without interruption, and so that when the truth finally comes out, it is clear, undeniable, and impossible to ignore. And this is where the chosen one is different, because instead of becoming impatient and trying to force an outcome, they learn to trust the process. They begin to understand that what looks like nothing happening is actually everything being arranged behind the scenes, that every moment of waiting is building towards something bigger, and that Allah is not delaying your justice to test your pain, but to perfect your outcome. And once you truly understand this, your mindset begins to shift. You stop asking, why is this taking so long? And you start realizing this is being handled in the best way possible. And that shift brings a level of calm that most people never experience, because you are no longer rushing what Allah has already planned. You are aligning yourself with it, knowing with certainty that what is written for you will come at the exact right time, in the exact right way. And when it does, it will make you understand why it could not have happened any sooner. There was a moment in your pain, whether you fully realized it or not, where you stood at a crossroads between two paths, one where you could respond with the same negativity, lies, and hurt that was given to you, and another where you hold yourself back even though it burns inside. And what you need to understand is that this moment was not sluchiny, it was a test of your character. Because when someone hurts you deeply, the easiest thing to do is to become like them, to justify your reaction by saying they deserve it, to return the same energy and feel powerful for a short time. But what you don't immediately see is that every time you choose that path, you slowly lose a part of yourself. Your peace becomes tied to revenge, your thoughts become filled with negativity, and your heart begins to carry a weight that was never meant for you. And this is where Allah's protection comes in, because by holding you back, by placing that restraint inside you, He was not limiting you, He was saving you from becoming someone you were never meant to be. Because the chosen one is not defined by how they are treated, they are defined by how they respond. And your response was different, even when it was difficult, even when it felt unfair, even when you had every reason to react. You chose not to cross that line, and that choice protected your identity, your peace, and your connection with Allah. Because real strength is not in how hard you can hit back, it is in how much control you have over yourself when you are pushed to your limits. And this is why what you went through was not just about pain, it was about purification. It was about removing the part of you that could have been pulled into darkness and strengthening the part of you that rises above it. And one day, you will look back and realize that while they were losing themselves in their actions, you were being protected from becoming like them. And that protection was one of the greatest forms of mercy you could ever receive. One of the heaviest feelings you carried during this experience was the thought that what happened to you went unnoticed. That the words they said, the lies they spread, the way they treated you in private or even in front of others somehow disappeared without being accounted for. And this is where your heart begins to feel restless, because as human beings we want to see immediate fairness. We want to see clear consequences. But what you need to understand is that in Islam, nothing is ever lost, nothing is ignored, and nothing escapes the knowledge of Allah. Because every single detail, no matter how small or hidden, is being recorded with complete accuracy. And this is not just an idea, it is a reality that has been shown even through the lives of the prophets. Because when Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was falsely accused, mocked, and rejected by his own people, there were long periods where it seemed like nothing was changing, where the dhulm continued and the truth was ignored. But Allah was not unaware of any of it. Every word spoken against him, every act of harm, every intention hidden in the hearts of people was being recorded and preserved. And when the time came, the truth did not just appear, it dominated. It became clear in a way that no one could deny. And this is the same principle that applies to your life. Because what you experienced is not forgotten, even if people act like it is. Even if they move on as if nothing happened, even if no one stood up for you in that moment, Allah saw everything with a level of clarity that no human ever could. And this should change the way you see your silence, because you were not suffering in vain, you were being witnessed. Your patience was being recorded, your restraint was being counted, and your pain was being acknowledged in a way that guarantees that justice is not a possibility but a certainty. And this is why the chosen one does not become desperate for people to recognize their truth, because they are grounded in something much stronger. The knowledge that when Allah records something, it is never ignored, it is never misplaced, and it will be brought forward at the exact moment when it carries the most impact. And when that moment comes, it will not feel rushed or incomplete. It will feel final, clear and undeniable, in a way that makes you realize that nothing you went through was ever unseen or unaccounted for. There comes a moment in every chosen one's journey where the pain becomes so deep, so confusing, and so personal that you begin to question not just the situation but yourself, where your thoughts slowly shift from "why did this happen?" to "why did this happen to me?" And that question, if left unanswered, can quietly damage your sense of worth, making you feel like you were singled out, like you were treated unfairly compared to others, like somehow you were the easy target, or the one who had to carry more than your share. But what you need to understand is that in Islam, pain is never randomly assigned, and it is never a sign that you are less in the sight of Allah. In fact, many times it is the exact opposite, because the depth of your test is often connected to the level you are being prepared for, and this is something that most people fail to see because they only look at the surface of their suffering without understanding what it is building inside them. Because pain has a purpose beyond the moment. It shapes your patience, it strengthens your control, it deepens your reliance on Allah, and it removes illusions that you once believed about people, about life, and even about yourself. And while it may feel like something is being taken away from you, what is actually happening is that something stronger is being built within you, something that cannot be shaken by opinions, by betrayal, or by temporary situations. And this is why the chosen one's path is never easy, because they are not being prepared for an ordinary life. They are being shaped for a level of awareness, strength, and connection that requires pressure to develop. Just like something valuable is refined under heat, your character is being refined through what you are going through. And even though in the moment it feels like loss, confusion, and emotional weight, in reality, it is a process of elevation that cannot happen without discomfort. And this is where your mindset needs to shift, because as long as you see your pain as a punishment, you will resist it, you will question it, and you will feel stuck in it. But the moment you begin to see it as preparation, everything changes. Your patience becomes meaningful, your silence becomes purposeful, and your struggle becomes something that is leading somewhere, instead of something that is just happening to you. And this is why not everyone is given the same tests, because not everyone is meant to reach the same level. And the fact that you were placed in this situation means that Allah saw something in you that you may not even fully see in yourself. The ability to endure without breaking, the ability to stay grounded even when everything around you feels unstable, and the ability to hold on to your faith even when your emotions are pulling you in a different direction. And this is not something small. This is something that separates the chosen one from everyone else, because most people react based on how they feel in the moment. But you were guided to respond based on something deeper, something more controlled, something more aligned with trust in Allah. And that is a sign of growth, even if it does not feel like it yet. And you also need to understand that part of this pain was meant to open your eyes, to show you realities that you may have ignored before, to reveal people's true nature, to break attachments that were not good for you, and to redirect you towards something better that you could not see while you were comfortable. Because sometimes comfort hides truth, and pain reveals it. And while that revelation can be difficult, it is necessary for your growth, because you cannot rise while holding on to things that were meant to be left behind. And this is why what you went through was not just about the situation itself, it was about what it was teaching you, how it was shaping your thinking, how it was strengthening your patience, and how it was bringing you closer to a version of yourself that is more aware, more controlled, and more connected to Allah than ever before. And one day, you will look back at this moment not with confusion but with clarity, not with pain but with understanding, because you will see how everything you went through contributed to who you became, how it built your strength, how it changed your perspective, and how it prepared you for something greater than what you thought you lost. And this is why you need to remind yourself again and again that your pain is not a sign that you were forgotten. It is a sign that you were chosen for something more, something that requires patience, strength, and trust. And even though you may not fully understand it right now, Everything you are going through is part of a process that is shaping you into someone who is stronger, wiser, and more grounded than you have ever been before. And that process, no matter how difficult it feels, is not working against you. It is working for you in ways that will only make sense when you reach the next level of your journey. There is something that slowly begins to change inside you as time passes, especially after you have gone through pain, stayed silent, and resisted the urge to explain yourself to everyone. And that change is the realization that truth does not need constant defense the way lies do. Because in the beginning it may have felt like you were losing control of the situation, like your silence allowed false narratives to spread, like people were forming opinions about you based on incomplete or incorrect information, and that feeling can be extremely heavy because as human beings we naturally want to be understood. We want our side of the story to be heard. We want to correct what is wrong. But what you begin to see over time is something that most people never fully understand. And that is that truth has a natural strength built into it, a quiet power that does not depend on how loudly it is defended but on how real it is. Because lies require constant effort to survive. They need to be repeated, supported, and protected, while truth does not need any of that. It simply needs time. And this is why, at the beginning, it may look like falsehood is winning. It may look like people are believing things that are not accurate. It may look like your silence is working against you. But what is actually happening is that everything is moving toward a point where what is real becomes clear without you having to force it. Because people can only hold on to false ideas for so long before inconsistencies begin to appear, before actions stop matching words, before reality starts to contradict what was said, and this is when the shift begins. Slowly and quietly, without you even realizing it at first, people start to question what they believed. They start to notice things they ignored before. They begin to see patterns that do not make sense. And all of this happens without you having to step in and defend yourself. Because truth is not something you need to carry on your shoulders. It carries itself, and this is one of the most powerful lessons for the chosen one. Because it frees you from the constant pressure of trying to control how you are perceived. It teaches you that your responsibility is not to convince everyone. Your responsibility is to stay aligned with what is right, to remain consistent in your character, and to trust that what is real will eventually become visible. And this trust is not easy, especially when you are in the middle of the situation, when you are still feeling the effects of what happened, when you still see people acting as if the false version of events is true. But this is where your patience becomes your strength, because instead of reacting to every misunderstanding, you give time the space it needs to do what you cannot do instantly. And what you will notice is that over time things begin to correct themselves in ways you could not have planned. Conversations change, perceptions shift, and sometimes even the same people who once misunderstood you begin to see things differently. Not because you forced them to, but because reality revealed itself to them, and this is why staying silent was not a loss. It was a strategy guided by trust in Allah. Because when you allow Him to handle your situation, the outcome is not limited to your effort. It is shaped by His knowledge, His wisdom, and His control over everything. And this creates a result that is far more complete than anything you could have achieved on your own. And you also need to understand that the rising of truth is not always loud. It does not always come with a big moment where everything is exposed at once. Sometimes it is quiet, gradual, and subtle, but it is just as powerful, because it changes how people see things from the inside. It replaces doubt with clarity, and it removes false ideas without conflict. And this kind of outcome is stronger because it lasts. It is not based on emotion or pressure. It is based on realization. And once someone truly sees the truth, it cannot be unseen. And this is why you do not need to rush the process. Because rushing comes from fear. Fear that things will stay the same. Fear that people will never understand. Fear that your silence will be misinterpreted forever. But trust removes that fear, because you begin to understand that what is meant to be revealed cannot remain hidden. no matter how long it takes, and this understanding gives you a sense of calm that most people never experience, because instead of reacting to every situation, you become steady. You become focused on your own growth, your own peace, and your own connection with Allah, knowing that what truly matters is not how quickly people understand you, but that the truth exists and will make its way to the surface in the right time. And when that happens, it will not feel forced. It will not feel incomplete. It will feel natural, clear, and undeniable. And you will realize that everything you went through, every moment of silence, every moment of patience, was not wasted. It was part of a process that allowed the truth to rise in a way that no argument or explanation could ever achieve. And that is when you fully understand that staying silent was never your weakness. It was your strength, because it allowed something greater than your words to take control of the outcome. There comes a point in your journey where you begin to realize that the justice you were waiting for is not going to arrive in the way you once imagined, because at the beginning of your pain, your idea of justice was simple and emotional. You wanted clarity. You wanted people to admit they were wrong. You wanted your name to be cleared in front of everyone who misunderstood you, and you wanted to see those who hurt you face the same kind of discomfort they caused you. And there is nothing unnatural about that feeling, because it comes from a place of wanting balance, of wanting things to be set right. But as time passes and as you grow through the experience, your understanding begins to change, and you slowly start to see that Allah's justice is not limited to your expectations. It is far more complete, far more precise, and far more impactful than anything you could have planned yourself, because what you were asking for was a moment of validation, but what Allah is preparing for you is a transformation of your entire situation. And this is where everything begins to shift, because instead of focusing on what will happen to them, your attention starts moving toward what is happening to you, and what you begin to notice is that while you were waiting, you were also changing. You were becoming stronger in ways you did not expect, more patient than you thought possible, more aware of people and their true nature, and more connected to Allah than you were before. And this transformation is not small. It is the foundation of the justice that is being written for you. Because real justice is not just about correcting the past, it is about elevating your future. It is about placing you in a position where what you went through no longer defines you, where the pain that once felt overwhelming becomes something that no longer controls your emotions. And this is why Allah does not rush the outcome, because if He gave you what you wanted immediately, you might have felt temporary relief, but you would not have experienced this level of growth. You would not have reached this level of clarity, and you would not have become the person you are becoming now. And this is what makes your journey different from others, because the chosen one is not just given justice. They are prepared for it. They are shaped into someone who can carry it without being consumed by pride, without being pulled back into negativity, and without losing the peace they worked so hard to build. And this preparation is what makes the final outcome so powerful. Because when it comes, it does not just fix what happened. It changes how you see everything. It removes the emotional weight of the past. It gives you a sense of closure that does not depend on anyone else's apology or acknowledgement. And it allows you to move forward without looking back with pain. And this is something most people never reach, because they remain stuck, waiting for others to validate their experience, waiting for someone to admit they were wrong, waiting for a moment that may never come. But you are being guided to something higher than that. You are being guided to a level where your peace is not dependent on anyone's words, where your clarity does not require anyone's explanation, and where your sense of justice comes from what Allah gives you, not from what people say or do. And this is why, when your justice finally unfolds, it may not look like confrontation, it may not look like exposure, it may not look like the kind of moment you once imagined. Instead, it may come in the form of distance, where you are no longer in the same environment that caused you pain. It may come in the form of growth, where you have outgrown the need to even think about what happened. It may come in the form of opportunities, where new doors open for you that shift your focus completely. And it may come in the form of inner peace, where the heaviness you once carried is replaced with a calm understanding that everything happened for a reason, and all of these forms of justice are far greater than a simple apology or a moment of acknowledgement, because they do not just address the situation, they transform you completely, and at the same time, you may also begin to notice that those who caused harm are not moving forward in the same way, not necessarily in a dramatic or visible downfall, but in subtle ways, where their actions begin to affect them, where their patterns repeat, where they face consequences that are directly connected to what they did. And this is another part of Allah's justice, because it is not always loud or immediate, but it is always accurate. It always reaches the right place, and it always happens in the right time. And when you see this, your perspective changes completely, because you no longer feel the need to wish anything upon them. You no longer carry the weight of wanting revenge, because you understand that everything is already being handled in a way that is more precise than anything you could have done. And this understanding brings a deep sense of relief, because it frees you from carrying a burden that was never yours to carry. It allows you to focus on your own journey, your own growth, and your own relationship with Allah. And this is where your real victory lies, not in what happens to them, but in what you become. Because while they were focused on causing harm, you were being elevated. While they were acting without awareness, you were gaining clarity. And while they were creating negativity, you were being guided towards something better. And this contrast is the true outcome of the situation, because it shows the difference between someone who is driven by temporary emotions and someone who is guided by faith and patience. And this is why you need to let go of the idea that justice has to look a certain way, because the way Allah brings it into your life will always be greater, deeper, and more complete than anything you could have imagined. And one day, without even realizing when the shift fully happened, you will find yourself in a place where the pain no longer controls you, where the past no longer feels heavy, and where you can look back at everything you went through with a sense of understanding instead of confusion. And in that moment, you will realize something powerful, that you were never losing, you were never forgotten, and you were never left without justice. You were simply being guided through a process that was preparing you for a level of peace, strength, and clarity that could not have been given to you without everything you experienced. And that is when it finally makes sense that Allah did not just give you justice, He gave you something far greater. He gave you a new version of yourself that is stronger, calmer, and more grounded than you ever were before. And that is a level of victory that no one can take away from you. Conclusion: trust the process. Your silence was never in vain. If you have been patient, if you have held your tongue when it would have been easier to lash out, if you have endured pain and injustice while the world seemed unaware, then understand this: nothing you went through was wasted. Nothing went unnoticed, and nothing was meaningless. Every moment of restraint, every second of patience, every quiet tear, every unspoken word has been recorded and held by Allah, and it is building toward a resolution far greater than you could imagine. The journey of the Chosen One is never easy, because it is meant to prepare you, to elevate you, and to reveal your strength in ways that ordinary trials cannot. You were tested not to punish you, but to perfect you, to remove what was holding you back, to refine your character, and to prepare you for a level of peace, clarity, and victory that can only come from trusting Allah's timing and wisdom. By now, you should understand that silence is not weakness, delay is not denial, and patience is not passivity. Every hardship was shaping you, every moment of misunderstanding was guiding you, and every injustice you faced was part of a divine plan that is greater than your mind can comprehend. Justice will arrive not always in the way you expect, but always in a way that is complete, precise, and transformative. And when it comes, it will leave no doubt, no regret, and no unhealed wound. What may have felt like a loss or a delay was actually the preparation of your soul, your character, and your position in this world. So, continue to walk your path with patience, faith, and trust. Keep your heart clean, your actions pure, and your focus on what truly matters, because the chosen ones are not defined by the pain they endure but by how they respond to it. You stayed silent when it was hardest. You held your composure when the world questioned you. And now, in time, you will witness the fullness of Allah's justice in a way that surpasses anything you could have imagined. Your story is not about the harm done to you, it is about the strength you built, the growth you achieved, and the peace that is waiting for you at the end of this journey. If you believe that Allah has already written your justice, and that your patience will be rewarded beyond what you can see, then declare it now. I trust Allah's justice. Because the chosen ones do not fight for recognition, they wait, they endure, and they rise.